Hello and welcome to another episode of Toonkind at 12 frames per second. I am Authenticity. Today I will be playing Whirlwind Gloo, or Gloo for short. I'm joined by the fantastic and the wonderful.
Hi, I'm Whirl, the very dead, and I'm going to be playing Endymion.
So, Endymion, you need certain materials, don't you?
Yeah. See, he's really good at making things, but one thing he's not good at making is chemicals. No one ever taught this boy chemistry. So cleaning supplies are the one thing he usually has to buy, but no one here takes glims.
Luckily, you do know a janitor.
Yes, he does.
I think that you sent a message to Gloo being like, "Hey, can I borrow some chemicals?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure."
Just, hey, do you have any cleaning supplies I could borrow?
And they sent back a letter that there is a janitor's closet on the first floor of the of the library that you can just pop into and get whatever you need. They keep it pretty well stocked.
Mm-hmm. And he would have just, you know, I imagine Hollyhock is the one who's being like the messenger pigeon here.
Mhm.
So he would have sent a message back with her that just said, "Thank you, I will be there shortly. I accidentally set my kitchen on fire again."
Mm. Yeah. As you step into the library, would you like to um make a perception check?
Absolutely. What is my fucking perception? Davian, where's your sheet? There it is. Oh yeah, it's a +6. I should know this. I just did this. Alright. So that is, according to DMV, that's an 18. I can post a
Excellent.
screenshot of the roll. Ah.
Um, you are able to find this cryptid pretty quickly. There I think that they just came down some stairs into the atrium, presumably to come meet you. And when
Mm-hmm.
they see you, they're it's interesting because their expression doesn't like change, but it does brighten. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's a little bit more glitter to their eyes as they shamble over to greet you.
And Devian will wave in greeting.
They wave back. And I think they sign Hat Flower.
Um, he smiles and he's going to sign back Crowflower.
I think that they just like I think that they are going to like sign and do small talk, but they look at you and they remember what they know of you, and instead they just like reach a hand out to take one of yours and lead you along. Like you understand each other.
Yes. Devian will happily accept that, and Holly is trotting along behind the two of you.
Yes.
There's mischief in those eyes, but no one can see her because she's behind you.
Yeah, there's not really bounce in glue step like as a rule, but they do just like their general demeanor is one where they're just like, Endymion, it's Endymion, it's Endymion.
It is indeed. It is the Sailor Moon.
Yup. Um,
The
like
Moon Boy, if you will.
the Moon Boy. And just whenever you look at them, like just somehow, some way, they just seem really happy to see you.
He's a little bit not sure how to respond to that, but he's not upset about it. Just, oh, they're happy to see me. That's unusual, but I appreciate it. I mean, he is
They,
very obviously, pleased to see you as well. I will note.
yes,
Like, as much as he's kind of a quiet presence, he is very smiley and happy to see you, Gloo.
yes. Man, I wiggle these two.
Listen, sometimes friendship is just two quiet people who enjoy each other's company.
This is fair. And I think they take you through the familiar twist turns and loop-de-loops of the Toontown Public Library. And there's a very tall, narrow gray door marked janitor's closet, and it is similar to some of the furniture that was up in the belfry.
Hmm.
It is very much suited for Gloo's proportions and aesthetic.
Mm-hmm. And Endymion will kind of smile at that and sign, "It suits you."
Glue tilts their head, and they sign, "How so?"
And Endymion kind of makes gesture for tall, narrow. It is
Mm.
U-shaped.
They look at Endymion, who is short with a very broad hat. They sort of like trace an Endymion outline with the hat. Short, short.
And he just nods and points at himself and then signs, "Short, square."
Mm. They just sort of like nod, like, yes, good. And they will open the door, and they will um sort of clamber their long-limbed self through the door. Do you follow?
He will pause a minute, marvel at, "This is apparently a deep closet," and then follow.
Yeah, it's a couple feet like deep, seemingly to make up for the fact that it's so narrow. Like Glue does have to like walk a little bit to get to the end of it. Um, it is still pretty cramped though, with like there's mops, there's brooms, a vacuum cleaner, um, many bottles of different concoctions. And Glue looks back and signs. You said you burned your kitchen?
Endymion nods and signs, "Yeah, I was trying to make something without using my magic, and it didn't work."
Was there grease?
Yes. I forgot that you do not put water on grease fires.
They immediately like snatch probably 3 or 4 different bottles. Like, this is what you need. Like, this is for the grease. This is for this it stains. This is for like don't necessarily say this, but they indicate like the bottles and like they'll take a piece of paper out of their out of their overall bibs and like start writing you a step by step like
Like what to use for what?
kind of like almost a recipe. Like first you wipe up the the bits of food. Then you use this on the grease. Then you use this to get the sip marks out. This is what you use to disinfect, but do do this and let it dry for about 5 minutes before you wipe it up. Like they know that he operates well with recipes, so they're making this as easy as possible by playing to a strength that they know he has.
That's actually really nice of them. Aw.
Mm.
And he smiles and he signs, "Thank you. You're very good at giving instructions."
Uh, they they are pleased. You get the impression they are pleased. Um, and I think they reach past him in order to uh open the closet door and let them both out.
And I assume because of the title of this FPS, uh, they grab the handle of the door and it rattles, but it does not open.
Mm. They rattle it some more. I think we cut to a camera shot of Holly outside the garage door.
Yes, and she's just batting around a set of keys on the ground, just very pleased with herself.
I think like Hildegard, the head librarian, walks by, sees the door rattling, sees the cat with the keys, and goes, and walks off.
Holly will just meow appreciatively at Hildegard, just, yes, you understand. You understand my mischief.
Meanwhile, Gloo is just kind of staring at the doorknob, like, well,
Well, fuck.
Gloo like looks at you like. I think they think for a minute and I think they say in Lore's voice, well, what do you think?
And Endymion will blink, try the doorknob, look very confused, look around, realize Holly is not with you, and facepalm.
Are you in need of assistance?
He shakes his head and he signs menace cat.
Ah, they like nod their head wisely. Menace cat.
And he's just going to like put his hands on his hips and then just frown at the door.
Would someone be so good as um to roll a d20 plus 1 for me because I do not have dice?
I would be happy to.
Thank you.
Team.
13. Glue kind of bumps their shoulder into the door and bounces off, and they like nod like that checks.
Endymion just like lightly raps his knuckles on the wood of the door and is just, and then we'll just sign solid and frown.
I think they look around the janitor's closet for things they can like try to bust it down with. Like they don't want to do too much damage. But also, is there a screwdriver in here?
I mean, it's a janitor's closet. Is there a toolbox?
Probably not. Like it's glue's not like they fix things occasionally, but that's not quite what they do. They're not an artificer.
Mm-hmm.
Um and I think they just like sits on the ground. They live here now.
I'm sorry, all I can think of is that one moment in the road to El Dorado. Did you ever imagine it would end this way? Well, the janitor's closet is a surprise.
They just like they pat the cement next to them and they're just like, come sit with me. Enjoy floor time.
With nothing else to do, he will do so.
Yes. Floor time. It's time for floors.
Floor time indeed.
Uh,
Hmm.
I think that I think there's a long moment of silence and where they just like kind of like vibe. Well, there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing but long moments of silence with these two. Um,
Mm-hmm.
leaded
They're
by
both
Gloo.
very quiet.
Yes. And I think they kind of shift around like they're bony. They can deal with like the cement, but like they look at they look at Endymion who's just sitting on like the cold hard cement, and I think they sign with an effort. Are you comfortable?
And he just blinks and he shrugs and signs, no worse than the deck. I'm fine. Are you comfortable?
They think about it for a very long moment. They shrug. They're not sure.
He will think for a minute and then he is going to reach into Hammerspace. Oh, wait. All right, you bitch. 9. And he pulls out a big star-shaped yellow pillow and he hands that to you. Just
Mm,
here. This is comfy to sit on.
what about you?
He shrugs.
Mm, they will sit on the pillow, but they look disturbed and contemplative. Contemplative. And I think they like after a second of like looking at the pillow underneath their butt, looking at you, looking back at the pillow. They kind of like stretch their arms out to you and do grabby hands.
Endymion is nothing if not fucking compliant, so he'll just blink, come over.
Very slowly so that you can clamber back out of their arms if you want. They will drag him into their lap to sit.
There's kind of a surprised blink, but he doesn't like try and fight back or anything. Just, oh, okay, this is what we're doing now.
Mm. Like, I'm imagining him like kind of like they've got their legs sort of like curled around him so that he can become, and they just look down like, good.
And he will give them a thumbs up.
Yes.
And he just kind of jokingly signs, and now we wait for rescue.
Mm. They contort in such a way that they can see him around the brim of his hat.
And he will just blink and then reach up and take the hat off and set it on the ground. And then look up at them and wave.
They wave back.
They're so fucking tall compared to him. It's funny to me.
Mm. It's a little bit better now that they're both sitting on the ground, though.
Mm-hmm. Or on a
Although
pillow that's on the ground.
on a pillow that's on the ground. Man. I think for some reason Gloo is finding it difficult to sit still. Like,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the time they will like they kind of fiddle with like the cuff of Endymion's boot and then like look down and realize what their fingers are doing and put them back in their lap. And then I'll like a few minutes later, like they mess with their hair, and look down and see what they're doing and put their hands back.
Uh, After a couple times of this, Endymion will kind of think for a minute and then roll d10. He reaches into Hammer's face and um pulls out he pulls out a glass bottle. And in this bottle are a few teeny tiny little spheres of glowy light, which he will uncork the bottle and pour out into his hand, and then he will hand some of them to Gloo to mess with.
Mm. They mess with the things of glowing light.
It's just like little warm, slightly buzzy marbles.
I think they like bring them up to their ear to listen to, and like they make the buzzy sound of the marbles.
Mm-hmm. It's a sort of soft humming sound like you might get from something electric.
Hmm. They I think that they like they mess with them, but then also they have to like keep themselves from like messing with them and you at the same time. Like just for
Mm-hmm.
some reason they enjoy your presence.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have to keep themselves from like rolling the balls off like the top of his knee. Just like, wait, no.
I mean, listen, from what has happened so far, you don't think he'd complain. He doesn't seem to mind much.
Mm.
As it is, he kind of takes a couple of the little glowy gold marbles himself and starts sort of tossing them between his hands, juggling them.
They clap.
He smiles.
They're so pure.
These two are just entertaining each other, and it's great.
I think um I think eventually they cobble together from a few different voices. I wonder when assistance will happen.
Hmm. Endymion tilts his head and kind of shrugs, and I hand you that this is when we kind of cut outside the door for a minute, and Holly has picked up the keys in her mouth and has now run off to go find someone.
Mm-hmm.
She's gonna take her sweet time about it, but she has gone off to get help.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys hear, back in the closet, we hear just a, a jingling sound from that thing strung about her neck that gets quieter as she runs off.
Mm. In the meantime, would Endymion like to roll a history check on one of the voices that Gloo has used a couple times now?
A history check?
Yes.
I can absolutely do that. Story, he is not very good at that. That is a 14.
Um, would that be enough to recognize Olu's slightly distinctive voice?
Yeah, probably.
Hey, apparently Gloo knows Olu.
Apparently so. He blinks in surprise at that and tilts his head back to look up at them and signs, and then he finger spells Olo's name before signing Penguin Flower.
They sign back penguin flower. They think about this. They nod. They sign. They made me go to sleep once.
He nods in understanding and signs back, Menace Cat dragged them to visit my boat. We went fishing and shared salad.
They nod. This sounds like Olo.
They are nice.
We should do something nice for Olo. They deserve it.
That gets a nod in agreement.
I think they're silent for a second, and they look at Endymion and they sign. May I ask you a question?
He shrugs and signs, sure, I'll answer if I can.
How do you feel about me?
Blink, blink. He kind of has to think for a minute to figure out how to put it into words. And then after a minute, he signs, you're nice. You're like me. It is nice to have someone to be quiet with. And you are nice to be around. I like you.
Mm, they nod. I think it's a very protracted silence before they realize, wait, they should probably explain. I think um they sign, I don't feel things. However, when I think of Olo, I don't feel emotions, but and they sort of tap the hollow of their chest. I feel warm.
He
May
nods
I
in
ask?
understanding.
And they hesitate and they're not quite sure why this is harder to explain. But they go, when I think about you, I feel warm.
And Endymion kind of smiles, and he doesn't really have answer words, but he leans back against them in sort of a, like, almost backwards hug.
Mm.
And after a minute, he signs, "If that's a good thing, I'm glad I can make you feel that way."
Mm. They hesitate, but they nod. People are very strange. I never used to feel anything, and I still don't think I do. But there is my daughter Moss, and she feels important. And my co-parent, Cass, and she is important. But I don't know what to do with the warmth.
Hum and tilts his head and thinks. And then he signs, "I don't know what you'd do about it either. Or do with it. Sometimes sometimes feelings aren't something you have to do things with. Sometimes being around people makes you feel warm or feel good, and that just means they're good to have around."
Mm.
And he kind of smiles and signs, "I'm not the best at this. Most of the people I used to know." He shrugs. "I haven't felt the way I do about you for them. But that's because it was a different kind of person and a different kind of interaction." And he smiles up at them and signs, "I like to think that you might be my friend, if that is something you would like to be."
Friend. I think that they look at Endymion and they signed Flower Friend.
And he smiles at that.
And I think like Glue kind of settles against the shelf and like um kind of hugs Endymion in their lap, and they just kind of vibe.
Mhm. I hand you just as a goof. Um, After a couple seconds, Endymion does kind of yawn.
Mm. They like fiddle around over the top of your head, and you realize they're getting something out of their overall bib. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and they pull out a whole ass blanket and drape it over the both of you. And
Excellent.
perhaps our last scene of the FPS is Hildegard finally opening the closet door to find them crashed out together under a blanket in the closet.
Mm-hmm. Closet nap time.
Closet nap time. Well,
That was certainly an FPS.
two quiet nerds chill out in a closet.
They vibe, they talk about feelings, and then they fall asleep.
Yup. Well, thank you all for
Incredible.
listening. Thank you to our lovely backup recorders. Catch
Thank you,
you.
listeners. Thank you, backup recorders. Thank you, KT, for the title card. We will
Yay!
see you all next time.
Bye.
Bye.